I'm Gray Thompson, and I did it again. I am the very best at making my own name a verb. Gray Thompson here on the FET College Football Podcast, joined by people who know how to speak, including Vitamin J Spivey.
Hi there.
Our special guest.
Thompsoning.
Clemsoning. Maybe that's where it comes from, right?
Yeah.
I Clemson my own last name. Davey,
Hello.
welcome back.
Thank you. Thanks for having me back.
I didn't call you by the name that you don't want to be called.
That's fine.
Dr. Davey McKnight,
people know
Esquire,
me as
how about
Irish
that?
Davey. In
It's
my past
Notre
life. It's okay.
Dame Davy.
Or Notre Davey.
Notre Davy.
He's our resident Notre Dame expert.
Yeah.
Dame Davy.
Yes, and
Hey,
he.
Davey. That works too.
I guess there's no accounting for taste, but he does love the Velo Fellow.
I do love the Velo.
And we're here recording at the Velo Fellow once again, and
do.
I love it. My belly's full, my head is swollen, and I'm ready to go.
I'm ready to go too. I mean, this was an interesting past weekend. Now, granted, Notre Dame wasn't playing, but we need Davy's opinions on all this stuff. And it's Clemson beating Pitt. I thought I never felt like Clemson was ever in threat of losing anything in that game.
I did. When that opening kickoff, Clemson didn't score. They waited until the first play
of the
from
game.
scrimmage.
That's true.
What was wrong?
I don't know.
Yeah, no.
I don't know who's calling the plays, but
I looked up. We had
Yeah.
barely sat down, and I saw ETN just break through. And I'm like, he's gone. He was 5 yards past the line, and I'm like, nobody can. He's gone.
Yeah.
And sure enough, just watch it. And then you sent that message to me. Trevor Lawrence streaking down the field, making a block. If he had to, he didn't actually have to.
I was
but-
very happy with Clemson because I could turn the channel and watch the fight because we pay-per-viewed the fight.
Oh, yeah?
So that they finishing that game quickly we were able to watch a little of the undercard. So
But you got to
Thank
watch
you,
the fight
Clemson.
that ended up in a draw.
and it was
Yeah.
fun.
Oh.
But
Well.
thank you, Clemson, for everything you did.
the takeaway in that first play was amazing to me, and it wasn't just that ETN ran down the field in the first play of the game. It's that when you look down at the end of that play, the person that caught the running back and the defensive back was Clemson's quarterback.
Yep.
And I thought, and he just flashed by and ran by them as they're running at full speed down. And I thought, holy cow, I had no idea that Trevor Lawrence had a motor on him like that, but he was flying.
How did he get there?
I
mean, he must have had a straight path.
He
but-
followed the play and then outran the two people running at full speed.
Sure, but nobody else did.
I just thought
mean-
that was an amazing thing to see.
It was
and it was such a
amazing.
little insignificant thing in the game. And it's like my eyes open and I texted Gray and I'm like, God, wow. Now, granted, Pitt played well. Pitt did what Pitt could do. Clemson did well.
Those
and
uniforms were pretty cool.
Those uniforms were
okay.
pretty cool. They were throwbacks, right?
Yeah. Throwback to Tony Dorsett. or
What a
something like
mess
that.
of a game, though. It was just disgusting looking out there. And I
yeah.
tell you what, though, I was really sincerely surprised, not by the win, but the fans, how loud they were, how many of
Yeah.
them were there in that stadium. I know it's smaller than Clemson, but still, there were an
Yeah.
awful lot of them there.
People turned out.
Yeah, making a lot of noise in really bad conditions.
And people,
For a game that a lot of people said was a brush off and didn't
Right.
matter for a lot of these conference championship games, turns out wasn't the case. They all mattered,
they always matter.
except for the Pac-12.
And you can only beat who's on the schedule and who wins the other division. So yeah, you'd like to have had a team with a better win-loss record, but you win the conference, you win the conference, and that means Clemson. And after the selection and all that stuff, Clemson playing Notre Dame. I mean, it's 2-3. At the Cotton Bowl, and the idea that Clemson's favored by 11.5 right now, I mean, that kind of surprises me. But I think this is going to be the Notre Dame Clemson game is going to be like old school tight ends making a difference, that kind of game.
I just maybe. I think Clemson is so complete. I don't know how you would point at any one spot to focus on how they're going to have success against Notre Dame. They're going to be good at kicking. Special teams has been a highlight for them this year. Wide receivers, good grief, they're all over the place. They've got tons of talent, including talent with experience and brand new freshmen. Tight ends, say no more. A great O-line, I think understated because the D-line gets all the attention, but you can't ignore the D-line either.
Yeah.
I will say this. It's sort of strength on strength for Clemson against Notre Dame, though, too. Notre Dame has a really good defensive line, maybe an even better offensive line. Davey, I want to hear your take on this.
Yeah, I actually don't think it's a good matchup for Notre Dame.
But I would argue that I don't know that anybody is, right?
No, yes.
I think for Notre Dame, this is the closest one you would want to pick.
Yeah, Alabama would, of course, be a bad matchup for us. But I think the issue with Notre Dame is...
I got my 2012 shirt on here.
Oh, boy. Have to rub it in after that game.
It doesn't...
Yeah. So, that's okay. It's fine. I'm not hurt about it.
We're talking about Clemson and Notre Dame now,
Yes.
and really couldn't give a crap about what Alabama shirt you've got on. We'll get to that in a minute.
Exactly. So, Notre Dame's,
I'm excited about this game. That's all I meant.
So-
Good grief.
So, one of the things about Notre Dame the last several years that people, have come to know with Notre Dame is great offensive line play. It's not that this year. They lost 2 guys to the first round of the NFL draft last year. Their best offensive lineman tore his ACL in week 3, and it's kind of been patchwork since then. They're starting their freshman redshirt at left guard. He's actually probably been the best offensive lineman the last few weeks. The pass blocking is very good. The run blocking is so-so. Against Florida State, they were great, but against Syracuse and USC, they looked bad. Pitt, yeah, exactly. So I think the only way Notre Dame can win this game is if they spread you out, if they spread Clemson out and throw on them, just like South Carolina did. I don't think we can run against Clemson's defense. I mean, Clemson's got the best rush defense by a mile in the country. It's like 2.3 yards a carry.
And even the statistics that negate that or come from garbage time.
You don't need to bring down a safety with that defensive line. I think it's a big mismatch up front on run. I think Notre Dame can pass block pretty well. I think that's
and they got some good receivers at Notre Dame.
They have very good receivers.
Tall, strong,
big, fast, strong. They got 4 guys. We got, we can spread you out in 3. We have a couple good tight ends. One of them's going to be a pro, probably a late round pick, but he's a pro. So I think that's the way we can win. I think the weakness of Notre Dame's defense is actually the run defense. I think if we, as Notre Dame, could stop Clemson's run game somewhat, we could possibly win the game. I just don't think they can. The pass defense.
So are you happy to be in this game?
I'm happy to be in this game, yes. For a program, we got at where we were 2 years ago. This is a huge step in the right direction. But we're not ready to beat a team like Clemson or Alabama yet. But this is where you have to get in order to get to that point. So I'm happy to be there. I would expect the game to be somewhere like 34-24. That spread's a little high.
So around 10 points.
Yeah, but I feel like that spreads. When I say it's a little high, that's around
just a little high.
But I mean, it could turn into we don't have a chance against you. I will say though, this is the best defense by far Clemson will play all year. The pass rush. If, for example, we can get Trevor Lawrence in 3rd and long, the ends are spectacular at Notre Dame.
It could be similar. I think it could be similar to the Clemson Texas A&M game.
It could be
because A&M. Pretty stout defensive line, pretty good players, and I think, if like anything else, like any other college team, a couple of turnovers, a mistake or two, a little bit of a flat day from Trevor Lawrence or something.
Trevor Lawrence, he didn't get to play Texas A&M.
But you could really end up with a pretty close game.
He's changed the team. I think a lot of people are using that as a data point that, to me, just shouldn't exist anymore.
If it ends up to where Clemson can run the ball, Clemson's going to just run the ball.
Yeah, exactly. And, the thing is, though, the thing that gives me hope was Texas A&M and South Carolina was able to spread Clemson out and move the ball in space.
SEC.
Was able to, and Notre Dame has better players on the outside than those guys.
The argument right now is that
than both of them.
Clemson hasn't been tested, right? How much weight do you put on that going into this game?
I don't believe in that. I think you're tested every week in Power 5.
See, I agree.
Yeah,
I think UCF is the example who hasn't been tested.
Yeah,
I say UCF, the entire American, the Conference USA.
Down the stretch was just murdering people.
Yeah.
That's what you do. See, if they were struggling with bad teams, then you would be concerned.
Right.
But they were murdering bad teams, and Clemson's been in big games. They know what to play.
Right. And Syracuse, I think, is kind of the odd team this year, that they're better than anybody thought they were going to be. So when they played Clemson pretty tough, by the end of the season, Syracuse has played a lot of people pretty damn tough. I mean, they're a lot better than we thought they were going to be.
Yeah.
So it's not like Clemson losing to Pitt or Syracuse a few years ago when they really weren't good. Clemson has put people away this year.
Yeah.
You know, and in years past, they would get by, and even under Deshaun in the national championship year, they let everybody catch up in the third and fourth quarter, and it's like, what are y'all doing? And it was frustrating watching that. But Clemson really hadn't done that this year. They've kind of kept their foot on the throat of just about everybody except for A&M.
And I would say it's a completely different team now with Trevor Lawrence, and
Right.
Etienne's a lot better too. So it's
I just think it's going to be an interesting game. And as a Clemson fan, I did not want to play Alabama first or Oklahoma, because Oklahoma's a video game. I mean, it's like, holy crap, if they hit on all cylinders, it doesn't matter if somebody scores 50 points against them. They're going to score 60.
yeah.
They
And
hit
so
on
let's
half their cylinders,
So
and
let's
they're all
get
on
to
offense.
So let's get to the Bama Georgia. Holy cow!
What a game!
I've never. Yeah, it was a Disney movie. Odd. I mean, I've never seen Alabama play so flat, but with good reason. When you figure one of the greatest quarterbacks in college football, you know, has been bugged by a sore knee and then hurts his ankle on the other leg. And so if that's going on, you cannot throw the ball the same way, regardless of how little it's bothering you or as much. He's just not the same athlete. And couple that with maybe not having a great day, all of a sudden Georgia was really doing good.
Georgia was
because
doing good on its own.
Yeah, because
Alabama from the very beginning of the game looked
flat.
uncomfortable.
Yeah,
they
they just
looked
didn't seem
stressed
ready.
out. Now there was definitely a greater Georgia crowd, but from what I heard, I didn't go to the game, but from what I heard from people who did go, all of the lights that they do on third down to get people to make noise, they were only doing for Georgia, so they weren't doing that for Alabama. I'm not citing conspiracy. I'm just trying to understand. This was so uncharacteristic.
Georgia was the home
Tua just
team.
looked like he was just going to start crying before he got hurt.
Right.
They looked scared.
They looked
I don't know how else to describe it.
It was just flat.
It was very strange, and I was prepared for a loss with this game because of how I'd seen Georgia play all year. Clearly, the results indicate that I wasn't wrong to be afraid of Georgia. I thought they played really good, sound, fundamental football, throwing, running, very balanced. For once, their kicker missed a field goal, and it was relatively short, although in the grand scheme of things, it might not matter. I didn't want to lose that way. Last year, when Alabama played Georgia in the national championship game, Jalen Hurts was already taking a lot of heat all season long in spite of how he played the year before. I think largely that was because of the difference between Lane Kiffin and Brian Daboll, the offensive coordinators. Jalen Hurts had a really bad time against Georgia last year. This year, the exact same thing was happening to, of all people, the decision maker, Tua Tagovailoa, just was not making decisions. The decisions he was making, they were bad. And he was taking a long time to make them. That's why he got hurt early, or at least banged up. Pushed him back. I think it was first and goal at the 6-yard line. Next thing you know, he throws a pick from the 30.
Well, I'll tell you one thing. It is the Disney ending, because it would being so flip-flop of Jalen coming in to save the day. And if there is one college player, you know, not Clemson, not my team, whatever, that I would love to just shake the hand of, it's Jalen Hurts. Because when you think about these guys are playing with their buddies for their school, and he stuck it out, and he stayed there, and he was supportive, and he was helpful. And if your second string guy is Jalen Hurts, and he comes in and wins the game, I mean, that is the Disney story of conference championships.
It's worse than that. If you took a story like that to Disney, they would say, no, we are not printing this. Nobody would want that, because nobody would believe it.
And so, to me, Jalen Hurts is the man. You know, and
Hurts so good.
He's bigger than Forrest Gump being in Alabama. I mean, he has finally surpassed Forrest Gump.
Okay.
Yeah, probably.
I mean, did you watch the game, Dave?
Yeah, I sure did. Yeah, I thought it was.
We all did. There were no other games on.
I
the whole country was watching this game, which I thought was great.
It was great, the fact that what he went through when the phone rang, he answered. It really did, and I thought that was very, very impressive of him.
He just had surgery coming off a high ankle sprain. The irony is Tua just had the same injury and now the same surgery.
So who's going to start in that game?
It depends on Tua's health. Look, they say 2 weeks, but we know how these things
But
can
you
go.
could-
Tua puts so much pressure on his ankles when he throws because of his
Yeah.
strength. It could take 2 to 5 weeks. So I don't expect him to be 100% because he hasn't been 100% all season. However, I'll say this, and we didn't talk about it much this year because people don't like to hear it and they didn't believe me. You're one of them. Jalen Hurts has improved. I wouldn't call him elite. I don't think anybody would expect to call him elite. But Enos, the quarterback coach at Alabama, who we've never had a quarterbacks coach before, Dan Enos turned up the juice. It made Jalen a better quarterback. And the times that he did get to play, he was significantly improved. I'm glad that we all got to see it. It's not just a good story, it's the best story. Don't take it for granted that Kelly Bryant left. Or don't take it personally, I should say. It became a story because of where he left and how he left.
Right.
But over a dozen quarterbacks left at the exact same time, right?
It was just handled badly.
Yeah. But you can't not celebrate the things that are great.
I know,
and
this
Jalen Hurts is
great.
one of the best things.
This is
These
one
guys,
of the best college football stories of the year. Is Jalen Hurts coming in to win the conference championship?
The idea was that he was going to stay this year, learn to get better, and then transfer. I don't know why so many people were thinking that's not what was going to happen, and it's still going to happen. He graduates next week. Roll Tide.
I'm going to dig a little bit on Georgia fans because thanks to Herb Street coming out right after that game, and Herb Street saying that Georgia should move up in the poll to number 3.
Ooh, Herbie, I
It
love
was
Herbie,
about
but
the dumbest, most inflammatory thing.
A lot of kind of.
And so all the Georgia fans jumped on the bandwagon, including their coach, and the coach is doing his job defending his team.
Yeah, that's
I
different.
think
But if
you
you
get paid
lose
to do
to-
that.
I got-
You're doing your job.
I got 2 words for all those Georgia fans about that conference championship, and that's fake punt. And you don't deserve, if you lose the game, let alone the momentum switch, and they lost that game because of that fake
It's the
punt.
dumbest call I've seen since
Right.
the fake field goal against LSU, which was the
Right.
dumbest call I saw.
I think that was
against
way
the-
worse.
Because
Because that was in makeable range.
Yeah, but this switched the game.
Yeah,
and it's the championship.
Well, you don't call a fake punt, and the problem is Alabama had their base defense out there. Once you see that, if you want to say, okay, we're going to put a fake out there and say maybe with the alignment we can run
Right.
something, but once you see the base defense of all the players Alabama has going up against tight ends that are on your blocking team,
Yeah.
or your blocking team,
No
of course that
chance.
was no chance, zero chance of that happening.
Alabama held Georgia to 7 points in the second half. They also forced Georgia to kick 4 times, and all 4 of those times, except for the last one, they outkicked. So they kicked it into the end zone, and it ended up being a much shorter kick. I think that's where the idea came from. The play call wasn't a bad idea. The problem is he didn't call a timeout. So again, this is what I hate. It's on the coaching.
Yeah.
It
You
Just
really
take the
is.
penalty at the 50, though.
Exactly. Well, you can, but now you have to rely on the players to know to do that, and that's too much. Your job
I don't-
is to
yeah.
make
Well,
sure
it's
to
still-
prevent that from happening.
matter-
I don't think it was as definitive. I also don't think it's the worst play call ever made, but it certainly
but
didn't help. And
it changed the game.
it definitely played to Alabama's advantage, and
Right.
Jalen Hurts did
It
it.
changed-
Jalen,
the
here's
game.
the thing: Jalen Hurts played well, and it's a great story. But you still make him go 80,
Yeah.
even if you
Yeah.
kick in the end zone,
Right.
make him go 80 yards.
He went 80 yards
With
the first time,
and
but
moment
that's
the
what you
game was
gotta
over,
do.
When that fake punt happened, everyone that I was watching with said they lost the game. There was
Yeah.
no chance.
And so
no
Georgia's-
mentality-wise, they were done.
So 2 plays later, Jalen on the 3rd play runs for a touchdown.
Right, and Jalen was at like 80%, and you could tell by watching him move. He would, and yet he still like gracefully scored that touchdown. But you could tell he wasn't at 100%.
He battled.
So I just my hat's off to that young man, because there is character for where he stayed with that team. There is character for how he played that game. There's character for how they treat him.
And there's permanent love. He's
I
got,
just think-
I told you I got to see him at Texas A&M, and when he came onto the field, they were on the other side of the field. I didn't know what was going on. The whole crowd starts cheering. Nothing had happened. The clock was stopped.
So-
It's Jalen. We cheered for him every time he came onto the field. He had touchdowns passed to him from Tua.
Right.
I love Jalen.
It's just what a good story.
Jalen Hurts literally scored more points than the entire Pac-12 championship game.
Oh my God, that's funny.
Try to tell me he hasn't improved now. I'm sorry. I wish I could say I didn't watch the Pac-12 game, but
let's
unfortunately
move-
I can't lie about that. What a terrible game.
So Bama's playing Oklahoma 1-4.
Yes.
So it is traditional, great, but improved offense Bama versus a video game.
You mentioned last week it wasn't going to be about Georgia or Alabama. It was going to be between, after that game, it would be between Oklahoma and Ohio State and what they could do. I don't think it was in Ohio State's hands for what it's worth.
No.
So, for example, a 59-0 victory over Northwestern might have made some people think more, but wouldn't have been enough.
Wouldn't have been enough. No.
Wouldn't have changed anything.
The Big 12 brought in this game because they felt like they might get left out. I don't know if they would have without this game. Obviously, it's always going to be a rematch because there's only 10 teams, but it certainly helped put them in with an exclamation point, too.
Well, especially it mattered, too, that it was Texas and Oklahoma. Because people don't look at the Big 12 as legitimate. They look at Oklahoma as legitimate.
And now Texas
is back to being at least relevant.
Right.
They're not back, but they're relevant. But so I think that gave it credence. And the way Oklahoma played in that second half, they showed to me,
they still don't have defense, but they were getting pass interference calls like crazy because they wouldn't stop holding. So at least there was something,
here's the
right?
thing. They don't play defense, but they also make defensive plays. They can create a turnover in a big play.
Let's get past Oklahoma winning it. They're in this game with Bama.
Yeah.
So how is the Bama-Oklahoma game going to shape up?
Two Heisman candidates. We'll talk about that later, but this is fantastic for the sport. Frankly, I'm a little bit surprised Trevor Lawrence didn't get invited, but that would...
No, he's not even in the... It's
ETN
not even
would be the guy who would have been invited.
And he's not even close.
I said a little surprised, but only because of the poetry that would be for the playoff, right?
So, Bama playing Oklahoma. Bama's favored by around 14. I think Oklahoma's going to score a shitload of points. I just think Bama's going to score more.
Yep.
I think we all kind of feel that way, Davey?
You know, and they ought to be a bet line that would be really interesting in this game.
Yeah.
How many punts are there going to be?
Oh, yeah, like a prop bet, yeah.
Because I bet there's only 3 punts the entire game.
I'm trying to do the math. Did Alabama miss more extra points than they actually punted this year? No, because of the Georgia game, but
That's
still.
So funny.
You remember the game last year, Oklahoma-Georgia? A lot of people going into the game thought,
the highest scoring Rose Bowl of all time. It was epic.
Oklahoma didn't have a chance, blah, blah, blah.
I don't know that Alabama would have stood a chance against Baker Mayfield.
Yeah, but the problem is Kyler Murray might actually be better than Baker Mayfield.
He's broken his records.
Yeah,
Dwayne Haskins has broken Ohio State's records and Big Ten records. Tua Tagovailoa broke Alabama's single-season touchdown records, among other things.
Alabama showed a little issues defensively in the passing game in that first half against a far less creative offense, far less explosive offense. I think, and remember, Oklahoma played, and I would say the Georgia defense last year is better than this Alabama's defense, and they torched Georgia's defense. I know Georgia got better in the second half, so what I would expect to happen, it would be like 28-28 the first half, something like that. Alabama puts a few stops together in the second half, whereas Oklahoma doesn't.
Yeah.
And the only thing is what's going on with Tua. If we get the Tua that looked lost and uncomfortable, Oklahoma can win that game. I think, though, a Jalen Hurts type might actually be worse for Oklahoma. I actually think he might start the game because his size, they're not going to be how small they are in the back end, they're not going to be able to tackle him. And if he's improved throwing, I think you might even sit Tua out this game.
He has, but he called his own number with the offensive coordinator, Mike Locksley, for that final touchdown.
Oh, yeah.
He's not afraid to ask to run.
No, he's not.
And it was clear it was wide open.
And, if Tua's healthy, Tua's playing, and Tua's going to win.
Tua's healthy.
Tua's going to win the game.
Yeah, sure.
So but the whole idea that you have Jalen Hurts behind you, and, if you need a series of Tua, sit down and relax for a minute, you get Jalen Hurts in there, and you're going to be right. If Jalen Hurts gets in the backfield, the back end on the Oklahoma defense, he is going to knock some of those guys for a loop.
And the wide receivers in Alabama.
But so are the Alabama running backs.
So
they're big, strong, tough.
Who haven't necessarily been outstanding this year. They finally started to turn up the juice a little late against Georgia, but it did come down to the passing game, including with Jalen Hurts.
They're going to run all over them.
That's what I'm about to say. There's just no defense like that.
And all they really have to do is stop Oklahoma 3 times at the right time in that game, and Alabama wins.
And they'll do that. They'll make a few. Again, you'll get a sack here. You'll get a deflected ball here, a drop pass here. But you're going to get that. Whereas Alabama, every time there's a ball caught, there's a ball handed off, they're going to get 6-7 extra yards per carry.
And catch. So, I can remember, and there's a little reference in this, when when Clemson beat the tar out of Oklahoma years ago. Now, different coach, different players, all that for Oklahoma. But it
and
was
a much worse quarterback.
But it was one of those wild Oklahoma offensive seasons. And I don't know if they scored on Clemson.
Very little. Yeah.
And so
The takeaway I had from that game was cheering the quarterback.
I think Alabama, to be honest, personally, I think Alabama's going to win this by 30-plus points.
I think that's pretty tall.
Oklahoma is going to get embarrassed because they are not in the league of an Alabama. And now it may get close or whatever, or they may score a bunch. I think this is one of Bama's brightest moments where they're just going to beat the P-Funk out of Oklahoma.
It's going to be everybody's brightest moment because they're so rested. Look, Bama going Mississippi State, Citadel, Auburn, and then Georgia.
And I think if
4 weeks, that's relentless.
Because see, if Clemson, if you think of it, if Clemson playing Notre Dame is going to be a more bruising game than Bama playing Oklahoma.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, Bama is going to come out of the Oklahoma game. Yeah, they may be winded for having to chase those receivers all over the place. But it's not like them playing Georgia or them playing LSU. They're not going to come out of it banged up, hurt, sore.
And for what it's worth, I feel like we need to mention Oklahoma's lost their best wide receiver. He may not be in for this game.
They were saying, I heard that he will be. I will say one thing. And this is one thing that Georgia didn't account for fans. I know the players and team did. The offensive line of Oklahoma is legitimate. They're going to be able to run. They're going to be able to throw. Kyler Murray is a sensation. I think you're going to have – I don't know about the 30. I think they're going to win decisively, but they're just going to be able to
They're going to score.
They're just going to score.
And unless he has a bad day, they're going to score a lot of points.
You can't stop these offenses. Deshaun Watson torched that great defense a few years ago. Murray will do the same, but they're not going to stop Alabama.
Yeah, they're just not. They're not going to – in the fourth quarter, when it comes down to size –
running, they're just going to get 12 yards of carry. Yeah.
And I think it's just going to beat up Oklahoma in the end.
The last time Alabama played Oklahoma, we got our butts kicked by Trevor Knight. Oh, man. It was not pretty.
Yeah.
I think the worst loss that we've had around that time was Ohio State. But other than that.
We're kind of saying then that, whether we like it or not or think it's a big deal or not, Clemson and Alabama are going to play again for the championship.
Yep.
And to be honest, I've said this all season. I think Alabama is 20 points better than everybody, and I think Alabama,
including Clemson.
What about Georgia, though?
I think that was a flat.
Yeah, it was a fluke.
I will say this: Georgia had their opportunity. They could have beaten Alabama playing their worst football with a backup quarterback.
Fake punt.
Fake punt is one thing,
Alabama's
but they needed another touchdown.
Again.
So. It would surprise me if they did, but health is not something that anybody else has had to worry about against them either.
But
Georgia had their opportunity and missed it, and it's as simple as that. All this other talk, I understand what Kirk Herbstreit meant, but it was totally illegitimate because, like we all said throughout the day, this looks like the easiest choice for the playoff. It doesn't even look difficult.
Easy, and they made the right call.
However, I will also say I think we don't always need a playoff this year. I don't know that we need it, but it's important because Notre Dame, these four teams, it's hard to beat.
Right.
Legacy programs.
I think they did it. They did it right.
And I think it's good for everybody. I think these games will not be boring. You won't have if you do have a blowout, it won't be boring. But I don't know. I'm excited about it.
So what about Urban Meyer retiring at the end of the season with a cyst on his brain that needs to be drained every now and again?
I'm going to say,
can I start first? First time we've heard that?
No. Oh, God, no.
About the brain cyst?
Yeah. That's been a story all season.
I heard about it a few months ago,
Okay, so it's news to me. And
is it really?
I'm not a big Thug Meyer coach fan.
He had to have surgery on his brain. How is that not a bigger story? And I'm not blaming you. I'm just saying, how wasn't it a bigger story? Let me tell you about Urban Meyer. Forget all the drama that he's done. When he's gone everywhere and succeeded early, and succeeded at the highest possible level. He won 2 national championships at Florida. He went undefeated in his first season at Ohio State.
He's still got the record at Florida for most players arrested under one coach, doesn't he?
That doesn't surprise me. Bowling Green, he took them to unprecedented heights. He never had a losing season there.
He's a good college football coach.
No one's really
Utah played in the Pac-12 championship for the first time this past weekend. They lost to Washington. Utah wouldn't even be in the Pac-12 if not for Urban Meyer going there and turning up the juice. They went 12-0 there one year. I think 11-2 the next
He's
year.
a good coach. And I don't think they'll miss a beat. I think they will be better without him.
When Jim Tressel got fired, we didn't ask questions about who Ohio State was going to hire. We knew. This was a match made in heaven. This is where Urban Meyer always wanted to go. He is, like it or not, he's one of the best coaches in the country in spite of the games where he loses big in the last 3 years. Yeah. And he's gone. And it's for his health.
Yes.
End of an era.
It's for the best.
Yeah.
Now, all right.
And they're promoting Ryan Day, which a lot of people are complaining about, but he had success in the pros. Tennessee wanted him bad, and he said, no, I'm sticking around here to be an assistant at Ohio State.
Well,
I don't think it's a bad call.
No.
And you can put him in as interim if you want, but my point is we knew they were going to hire Urban Meyer. I don't know who you even look at right now. Who?
Well,
I'd be fine with Ryan Day.
Yeah, but the thing is,
Ohio State could have.
I wouldn't be.
They still can. There's plenty of time.
Yeah, it's Ryan Day. He already signed a 5-year contract. So.
Oh, I didn't know that.
It's a done deal.
It's done.
Yeah,
They've hired him.
I thought he was interim.
No, he's hired.
He's
it's over.
5-year contract. Well, there you
and
go.
I think it's been part of the whole thing with Urban Meyer being suspended the first 3 or 4 games or whatever. I think this was planned. Mm-hmm. And if it wasn't planned at that moment, it's been planned the last month or so. And I think that the university itself has made sure that they were going to respect him, treat him well, but he was ending his tenure. And I think there's more to this story. I don't want to get into it here, but I think a year or two down the road, we're going to find out more to this story.
Yeah, maybe.
And that's why, they just let him finish out the season.
Yeah, don't fire him because they didn't have him for cause, but they said we're going to bring up more stuff.
And I think he probably agreed to it.
Yeah.
Then it's win-win for everybody, right? Urban Meyer's out of the sport. Ohio State's happy.
So,
if he is doing this for his health, good for him. Take care of your family.
Take care of your family. Now let's end
His final game is going to be the Rose Bowl against Washington.
I know.
They're going to destroy the Huskies. I thought it might be close until now.
I hear
you. You don't think? You saw what they did to Michigan. Are you kidding me? I know Washington has a great secondary, but sorry, Haskins is fantastic.
He is good.
And they're going to be amped up for that game.
Let's end this talking about the Heisman. Now, does Tua having a flat game and getting injured in the conference title affect and raise up Kyler's
I think
stock?
it does.
It already did.
Yeah.
We saw that.
So I think it wasn't just this game. It was a few weeks. He wasn't great in the LSU game. He wasn't great in the Mississippi State game. He wasn't great for a lot of the Auburn game. Then he was terrific in that second half. So that's definitely a plus. But yeah, I mean, when you're called, and I don't blame Tua. He was hurt. It was clearly mentally, physically wasn't quite there. But when you're called in the highest game to play well, Murray torched Texas, won the game, basically single-handedly, how awesome he was in that second half. And Tua was hurt. I mean, that matters. Injuries matter. And I would say I'd rather maybe have Tua. Maybe Tua had the better year, but it kind of was trajectory in that way, how good Murray was. I think it affects it. I don't know who will win, but it was a shoe-in 4 weeks ago.
Yeah, I think it was a shoe-in, and I think Tua will still win it. Mm-hmm. But I think just because of the games this past weekend, that Kyler, I think it's probably, we're going to find out it's one of the closest votes.
You'd be the first millionaire to win.
But I mean,
right.
I think it's kind of fascinating because, as of now, Haskins has the most TDs and yards.
If he didn't play if that Purdue game didn't happen.
Haskins won this weekend. He's the reason why that team beat Northwestern. He's fantastic. He broke the Big Ten single-season touchdown record, too. Fantastic.
But only because of this past weekend is Kyler the highest-rated quarterback. He wasn't until this past weekend.
And there you go. So now the Big 12 championship rematch doesn't seem like a bad idea.
And now the guy who was the best-rated quarterback all season long was Tua. Like in a couple of different ways of measuring it. So now Tua's like
he doubled his interceptions against Georgia alone.
Right.
For the entire season.
He had the bad game.
And didn't play in the fourth quarter so much. Does that hurt his Heisman? Yeah, absolutely. Is it worth it? No. Let's talk real quick. It's still just a trophy.
Right.
There are so many trophies that go to more things. The Heisman gets all the hype. It's exciting. I'm not saying it's bad, but I'd rather see any of these three win than another Jameis Winston or Johnny Manziel.
Well, let me add one thing. According to Vegas, Murray is favored to win.
Yeah.
And I
how
think
much
it's
fun
all
would that be
because
to see a baseball player win the Heisman?
And
He might change his career.
and I
because the new
guarantee
NFL
that's a good
rules
point,
with-
right?
He's a quarterback. He's a quarterback. New
And I tell
NFL
you,
rules protect these guys. Yeah.
Tua will win it next year, or be right up there in the talk.
If
one
he
or
stays
two.
healthy,
yeah, we'll see. He has to stay healthy.
because he's so good.
He's so accurate.
I mean, he is so good, and it's like you see him, and you know he's going to be phenomenal in the pros as well.
I wonder what we would have seen him do, not just against Oklahoma's schedule, but
Yeah.
playing in the fourth quarter of more games. I think people
it
were
would
looking
have
for
been-
Heisman moments.
It would have
I'm
been
like,
video. It would have
your
been
Heisman
more
moments
video
are-
than Kyler.
Yeah, it's often when you're winning the game on
That's
a single
a good point.
touchdown. They
Right.
just didn't have that.
If Tua had Oklahoma's
He was that
defense,
good.
right?
He was that good playing 3 out of 4 quarters.
Yeah.
Imagine, like you said, if he was playing, because I think Kyler was playing because the defense was so bad, was having to play 4 quarters in almost all games.
This is a silly argument, but when you factor that in and take out the fourth quarter
Yeah.
for those teams,
Yeah.
he's in the lead for those.
Yes.
I'm not saying that's the reason
Yeah.
why we should. Again, I want to stress it's just in the word.
Right.
I'd be more upset if Hunter Renfrow doesn't win that award for the best walk-on.
He
right?
won it.
Did he win? That was
Yes,
over? I
he-
thought all the awards were going on this Thursday.
No, he won.
The college
He
football
won
awards.
the award for the best walk-on.
Okay, well there you go. It's a
And
good
that
one.
just-
He got snubbed last year.
And all I got to say on Hunter Renfrow,
Yeah.
Renfrow 2020, he's good at everything. Renfrow for president.
I'd vote for him.
He's too young. He's too
Wilkins
young.
for vice president. I know.
But that would he could.
Renfrow
for
Wilkins.
Congress, so, yeah.
Renfrow Wilkins
Do you-
for
Do you
president.
think Renfrow has a shot in the NFL? I'm wondering.
Yeah, he's going to
His
be.
route running is so elite.
He's going to be the Bolitnikov
He's tough.
Yeah, true,
of the
right,
NFL.
And he doesn't drop balls.
He doesn't drop
I mean,
balls.
you
And
have.
he's
I'm
caught-
willing to pay for that for sure.
But he's also, I guarantee you,
Some old
we're
draft.
going to be sitting around, if I'm still around 20 years from now,
Mm-hmm.
Hunter Renfrow is going to be one of the best coaches that college football's ever seen.
That was the point I was going to make. There's more than just the NFL now. We've got another
He
league
is
coming
smart, good. He's going to play as long as they'll let him because
in.
he told us
well, as
that.
long as he wants to, I would say.
Oh yeah.
And then he
Coaching
is such a
can
mind
come
for
later,
it.
yeah.
And he's an economics major and all that. But I am telling you, coaching is in him,
Totally.
and he's going to be that guy.
I know this might seem a little facetious, but if Alabama plays Clemson, that's the guy we're all watching from the Alabama side. Is,
Oh,
where's
sure,
13
yes.
at? Oh,
Yeah.
no.
Horseshit. Yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
He seems to come alive. And I hope, as a Clemson fan, I'd love to play Alabama every year because if we're playing Alabama every year, it's in the playoffs.
Yeah.
So whether it's
good
Clemson's,
sign.
Clemson's 1 or 4 or 2 and 3, one way or another, if they could just set their sights and we know we're playing Alabama every year and we could win 1 out of every 3 or 4 of those, that's perfect.
It's interesting that we have a few similar data points against some of the same teams, but
Right.
next year we both play South Carolina in the regular season.
Yeah. Well,
Common
good luck,
opponent.
good
It's
luck
gonna
with that,
mess up
South
those
Carolina.
They are going to the Belk Bowl.
And you know,
play a
and
better
if you're
team than
all,
Akron.
if you're all
And they didn't
looking-
beat the spread.
And if you're
Nobody
all
holds
looking for
Akron
something
29,
outs-
except Ohio University. Go Bobcats.
Hey,
Out.
Akron beat Northwestern.
I'm just saying. We said that last week. Thank you very much.
Well, this has been wonderful. Everybody, I hope everybody, since there are bowls for virtually every team that plays college football, I hope everybody enjoys the next few weeks.
I loved all these championship games. I love
Yeah, I
the
did
Conference
too.
USA, UAB. Real quick, 2 years ago they didn't even have a program. Now they've won Conference USA. That's pretty impressive.
That
Yeah.
is very
The only thing that wasn't impressive was Pac-12. Gross.
Yeah.
I did not enjoy that game.
I like Washington though. I like Chris Peterson.
Sure,
I
I
just-
just didn't
I
enjoy
ju-
the Pac-12
I just
championship
think,
game.
yeah,
The
I
only
just think
touchdown
it's-
came on a kick. Like, forget it.
Yeah. I agree with
Bad
Greg.
weather too.
Okay, tell that to Clemson.
True.
Well, thank you,
Davey, you're the best. To go Irish.
Thank you, Davey.
Go Irish. 61-0 Notre Dame over Clemson.
Yeah, it's 61-0. You know, if that happens, I'll be disappointed, but I'll still be watching the final championship game.
You appreciate that it's going to be indoors in a dome, right?
Yeah.
It's good. Alabama's going to be outdoors in Miami, which I think favors them even more over Oklahoma. So we'll see.
More likely chance to win, Notre Dame or Oklahoma.
Oklahoma. Sorry.
Notre Dame.
Really?
I say Oklahoma.
Yeah.
I just don't see that.
Because of the Tua
Yeah.
health situation.
Yeah.
That's it. That's
And
it.
Kyler Murray is that good.
He is that good.
They've got receivers.
If Tua's good to go,
Look, you saw Jake
No
Fromm do it
chance.
too.
Yeah.
Bing, bang, boom. 6, 8, 12 yards.
Jake-
I just
like crazy.
Jake from
Jake from
State
State Farm.
Farm playing in the All-State
conflict
Sugar
of
Bowl.
interest. Put
Yeah.
your money on
Against
Texas.
Texas.
Just
That's
saying.
right. That's right.
Really?
All right, guys, let's wrap it up. Thanks, fella. Thanks,
you.
you guys. We'll see you when we see you.
Roll Tide.
Thank you.
Go Irish.
Go
Tigers.
Tigers.